My name is Adrian Burney, known to some as the Barbershop. I've been cutting hair for 29 years. I've been licensed for 21 of those years. I started cutting hair at the age of 15, and I remember my first pair of clippers like it was yesterday. Me and Mom went to Kmart, and it was a pair of black Conair clippers, and I was like, "Mom, can you get them for me?" "Yeah, sure." And so I'm pretty sure she was thinking, as I was thinking back and reflecting, man, this kid, he's been going down the wrong path. And so I'll be willing to do anything in order to see him back on the right path, doing something constructive, because prior, I had already been arrested a couple times. I was hanging with the wrong crowd. I was on a very destructive path. And so it didn't take long after I got those pair of clippers that I went to school lying. I went to school lying, telling everybody I can cut hair. I ain't cut a lick of head before, you know what I mean? But that's how excited I was about this barbering thing. And so I had one particular friend that wanted to call me on the carpet and be like, "Okay, if you can cut hair, I'm gonna come on by this weekend." So he did. I was thinking it was just gonna be him, but it was him and his cousin. And so I'm like, okay, I can cut both. And so he was like, "Hey, cuz, how about you go?" And so I'm like, okay, I get this. He wanted to see if I can cut hair. But I wasn't scared. And so I commenced to messing this guy's hair up. And so my friend, he was like, "Well, you ain't about to jack my haircut up. So, when you get better, then we can talk about you cutting my hair." You would think that would have caused me to be like, "Man, Mom, take these clippers back. I'm done." Because prior, I tried a lot of different things. I tried singing in the choir. She said, "Maybe you should try something else." I tried being like my older brother. He was an all-star, all-state athlete, and that just wasn't me. But this barbering thing, it just kind of drew me in a little bit more. And so, my mom was in charge of taking us to get a haircut. Now, no offense, okay? But I was tired of white women messing my hair up. I was tired of it. Spraying water on my hair. You're not supposed to be spraying water on my hair. You're supposed to use clippers. And so, I was like, okay, I'm cutting hair now. And so, okay, I can kill two birds with one stone. So I can go to the local barbershop and get a good haircut, and I could also learn some tips and tricks. And so I went to the local barbershop, and I began to, I was like, man, I've never been to a black barbershop before. Now, I was raised in a black community, but I never been to a black barbershop because, again, my mom was taking me to salons where she was getting her hair cut. And so, I immediately came in, and, I was greeted with hospitality. But, it was a lot of black men in there like raising their voice and stuff like that. So I'm like, wait a minute, is this about to be a fight or what? What's going on here? But it wasn't that. It was, it was like a sense of like a brotherhood, like fraternity type of deal. And I kept going back and back and back because I loved the atmosphere. And I was also getting an education on how to cut hair. I was taking some of the things that I was learning back to my bathroom barbershop. Because that's where I was cutting hair at. I was cutting hair in the bathroom, and I didn't have a barber chair, but I had a toilet stool. That's where my clients were sitting down to get their hair cut on the toilet stool. But I recognized that this was a sense of place. And what I was experiencing right there, I wanted to create right there in my bathroom barbershop, as weird as it may sound, a sense of place. Because obviously these men felt like they belonged here. And I wanted to create that same atmosphere because, I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I had gone through things, traumatic events that, nobody knew about. And so I was holding all this stuff in. But through this barbershop I was creating, though I wasn't licensed, I was creating this community and this sense of place right here. Now, I would be lying to you if I said that I'm a black barbershop historian? And if I want to be honest with you guys on tonight, I only started delving into the history when I was given this opportunity to speak. And so I was like, once I started diving into the information and the rich heritage, I was like, man, I really been missing out. So what I experienced when I was going to this black barbershop, it had roots. It had a foundation. It had a past. And I didn't know that this past was rooted in the black history of America. And so what I learned was that the black barbershop didn't start until after 1863, emancipation. But prior to that, it was just black barbers being used by white slave owners to enrich themselves. They would loan out their slaves who knew how to cut hair just to cut rich white man's hair. And a black man couldn't go into a barbershop the same time that a white man was there because he didn't want to sit next to a black man getting a haircut or getting a shave. And so if a black man wanted to get his haircut, it would have to be after hours or outside of the barbershop. Now, it wasn't until after 1863 to where black barbers were now free to serve their community. They started setting up barbershops in predominantly black areas to begin to start serving their community. Now, the black barbershop was one of the only businesses that a black man could start back then, where he can be an entrepreneur and generate income and wealth for his family. But after 1863, they had an opportunity to realize the American dream. Now, fast forward, we're dealing with Jim Crow. We're dealing with the civil rights movement. And you begin to see the black barbershop stand up in such a way. They stood up in such a way because the black barbershop during that time was really one of the only places that black liberation organizations could go and meet and plan and organize and talk about pertinent information that was impacting the community. And I was like, wow, the black barbershop stood up and was one of the only meeting places. And not just that, but one of the only places that a black man could go and freely express some of the rage and some of the frustration that he had during that time that he had to live with. So it became almost like a sanctuary and a refuge. And I was like, wow, why didn't I know this? This stuff isn't taught to me in school. When I was going to barber school, they didn't teach me about the black barbershop. I just now learned this. And I said, it comes at a very pivotal time in history for the black community. Because there's a lot of things going on in the black community. It may not be the same things that were happening during post-slavery and during Jim Crow or the civil rights movement, but we have our own set of issues. Young black men not valuing life so much to where they'll take another life. And I was like, what if the black barbershop today could take a page out of the book of the vintage black barbershop and begin to start serving as a sanctuary and a refuge, just like the black barbershop back then? What would that look like? What would that look like? Because the black barbershop and the black church, I would say, in my own opinion, parallels in influence two of the great major institutions in the black community. Now, there's an exodus from the church from a lot of millennials and those in the black community. but there's definitely an entrance into the barbershop. So I would call, my hope would be this, that the black barbershop would be the 21st century church, and the black barber would be the 21st century pastor. So as the black community is leaving the church, we now have an opportunity with the barbershop to yield its influence there. I mean, because there's not too many places, right, men, to where someone can be in your space and you're okay with that. Like a barbershop. So proximity and frequency. If you're coming to get a haircut once a week or twice a month or once a month, that's a prime opportunity to address some of the issues that we have within our community. And if our black barbers and our black barbershops were trained by mental health experts, by social service professionals on how to look for signs for this, how to look for trauma and abuse, and how to provide resources, we could probably change the trajectory of our community one haircut at a time. Now, I have not been left unscathed. Some of my struggles and some of my deepest mistakes and pains have developed such a depth and well of wisdom that I freely offer to my clients, wanting to show them my wounds, wanting to show them my struggles so that you can understand that you're not in the struggle alone. And that's the power of not just the black barbershop, but the barbershop. But I say that because for some, a barbershop is just about a haircut. But for others, as you're learning, and I'm learning now, the barbershop is about life. Some can casually go to the barbershop, well, I'll get there whenever I get there. But others go there because their life, they feel like, depends on it. They want some wisdom from the barber. They want some fellowship from other men because they're going through struggles that don't nobody else understand. I have created my barbershop in such a way to where I welcome men that has come out of a struggle, men that are at risk, black men that are part of the urban community, men that are struggle, because one thing that I can say we all relate to, some of us cover it up better, is pain. It's pain. And so I'm doing the best I can to form other barbers and encourage them to say, you know, the stuff that's going on in our community, it shouldn't be on our watch. You have an influence as a barber. You have an influence to where you can deter this young man from gunning down another man because of something that he said to him on Instagram. That's what we're facing in the black community. And my hope is that the barbershop, the black barbershop, would look to history and see how the black barbershop of old provided a sanctuary and a refuge for the black community that was going through the struggle and the terrorism of that day. And if we take a page out of that book and say, how can I utilize my influence to mentor a young man who doesn't have a father? To mentor a young man that you obviously see that he's getting his money from drug sales. And in turn, them drug sales are impacting the communities and destroying homes. The barbershop can do that. I've created a program to where I'm going to an alternative school for kids who've been kicked out for all sorts of issues, truancy, fighting, selling weed, all that different type of, all these type of issues, and created a barbershop inside the school. And it's like, let's talk. And I hear their stories, losing their mom to drug overdose, Their dad has been in prison since they've been 2 years old, and now they feel like they are hopeless. But not all hope is gone. I've heard countless testimonies from my clients of old and of now. Hey, Bishop, thank you. Thank you for your words of wisdom and your encouragement. I was thinking about making a choice that could have jeopardized my family. I was thinking about making a choice that could have cost me my freedom. And so my hope is that other barbers and barbershops, especially within the Black community, would create this sense of place and this belonging for the community to help change the fabric of our culture. You may be asking, what can you do? Some of you may say, well, man, that's really tough. I really feel sorry. Or some of you may be like, oh, another sad story. But whatever you can do by means of your influence, your resources, you may go to a barbershop that's 2 minutes from here. Try going to a barbershop that's 40 minutes from here in the Black community and just say, hey, those that are actually doing the work, what can I do to come alongside of you? Now, maybe I can come here once a month, but I was so compelled to just want to, come alongside because I heard this guy talking about the Black barbershop. Maybe that's what you can do. And I pray that you would pray for me that I can continue to do the work of creating this sense of place while utilizing my influence as a barber in the barbershop to help change my community. Now, I'm passionate about my community, just like others are passionate about their community. I don't want to see the struggles. My family has been impacted by many of the things that has happened in the Black community. And I just now realize that we need to create a sense of place. Thank you guys for your time and your consideration. My name is Adrian Burney, better known as the Barber Bishop. Thank you.